I'm constantly thinking about what I'm doing. Is there a better way to do it? Taking other ideas. Yeah, I'm always thinking about how can I do what I'm doing in a better way. So if I do something in a class and I apply it, and I'm reflecting on like, okay, did that get the results that I wanted? If yes, okay, why? And then if no, okay, why wasn't it working? So yeah, I'm always thinking about it. So, yeah.
Welcome to the Fighters of Perth podcast. I am Daniel Williams, and I'm joined today with a special guest. People may find him very familiar because we've actually swapped seats right now. I'm joined with Mikal Joubert. How you going, Michael?
I'm going really great, man. Thank you for swapping seats. Thanks for taking over the podcast for today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, how does it feel sitting in that chair? Is it different or something that you don't really notice too much?
Yeah, or we'll see. We'll find out. Right now, I feel really relaxed. I don't have to ask all the questions, so it's pretty good.
Well, it's an honour to be here because a bit of a backstory of this. So Michael, he's recently fought. He fought a Hardy Jake. He's a teammate of mine, actually, so that's a funny story.
Okay.
And you came out of retirement to fight, and then you retired again. So we will get to that. We'll get back to that. And I want to just bring it right back, right? Because I want people to know who you are. You've obviously started this podcast. And right back to Michael's early childhood. Okay?
Yeah.
And then getting into Muay Thai, what are some like traits or things that you can sort of explain and share with us? Like, what kind of led you into this journey? Like, where were you born? Like, is there any experiences, traumas you had as a kid? What do you think that led you into becoming a Muay Thai fighter, now coach, and all the adversities that you went through?
Man, I don't know if there's any adversities that made me a fighter. Since I was a young kid, I was just obsessed with martial arts. I think any of my family members can vouch for that. And I think maybe it was that era or that generation. There was Power Rangers, there was every kids show, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had martial arts in it. So I don't know if that was the influence. I mean, my dad also had done martial arts, so...
I was going to say, did you have like a parent inspiration, a sibling inspiration? Do you have siblings? I
do, yeah. I've got a sister. She doesn't really have any interest in martial arts, so... No, it was just a me thing. I do think my dad had an influence on that. But I just remember just loving it, just loving anything martial arts related. I didn't know what Muay Thai was as a kid. It was karate, kung fu, all the stuff you see in movies. And it's actually pretty funny because since I was a kid, all I wanted to do was martial arts. Like since kindy, right? I just wanted to do martial arts. And my mom never let me, but that's primarily because of my temperament. I have pretty bad ADHD. I mean, I still got ADHD, but my ability to regulate my emotions as a kid wasn't really good. So I had these rage things and rage issues, and I think she thought it just wasn't a good idea for me to do it. But I would still try. I would ask every year, and I just wanted to do it. And I think finally, once I was about 15, 16, my mom was like, if you get a job and you pay for it and you get your way there, you can do it. Because I'd gone to a point there where she could trust me, trust my behavior. And there's a whole story there. Actually, it was one of the jobs I was doing which led me to Calsoc. I was working at a fish and chip shop, and there was a guy there that knew Jordan. I can't remember his name. He worked one shift there. It was one night. I was actually training at that time, I was training at the arena at Rockingham. The arena at Bibra Lake. They closed down now. Yeah. A few really weird experiences there, but I wasn't really liking it. And this guy, I was talking to him about me training. I think maybe been training for a few weeks. He's like, oh yeah, there's this gym that's in Canning Vale. It's called Calsoc. I'm pretty sure he mentioned you. He's like, oh, look up this guy. He's had a few fights. He mentioned Jordan. He said, I've got to meet their Jordan that trains there. He says that in the back.
That would be 2000.
That was 2000 and towards 2010. Towards the end of 2010.
There we go. We're old now.
Getting there. You're a little bit older than me. But yeah, I'm turning 30 like next year, so yeah. Still feeling good. I'm feeling strong, man.
Yeah, so you were 16 when you started. That was your first journey into Muay Thai. And before that, you didn't do any martial arts, but you always loved it. Yeah,
so I never did any martial arts, but I tried to teach myself because obviously I wasn't allowed to do it. So I'd get like library books, and which would have like the demonstrations and the techniques, and I tried to teach myself. Had a few friends which did it, and I tried like learn off them. And yeah, I would just try to do that, and I felt like maybe that's why I picked it up fairly quickly. Like I felt like I picked it up fairly quickly.
Oh, you definitely did. I can vouch for that.
yeah. Thanks, man. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so taught myself, and then eventually I got the opportunity to actually train, and through that whole long story that I mentioned, found Calsock and got my ass beat for a while until eventually learned to swim.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because obviously your passion before with martial arts brought you into the sport, and that's why your rise was pretty quick in the sport. You fought as soon as you can, and you were training all the time. What do you think was some of the motivations that led you into martial arts? Like, for instance, I was the same. I always loved martial arts. I loved like the movies, like the hero status that they got, and just how they were just like these invincible men that could just they were like stoic and they could just handle every situation. What do you think was some like intrinsic motivations that sort of led you into loving martial arts? You said the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I think what you just said there, that hero status, I think every young boy wants to be the superhero in his own story, in a sense.
Yeah,
like he wants.
Good point.
Wants that. Yeah, funny you mention it. I think I was quite small as a kid, and I think maybe, you see these people, they can, I think, what was one of the movies I watched? Was that The Three Ninjas? I don't know if you remember those. These little kids are beating up adults, whatever.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and I watched that, and I think it's like a sense of empowerment. Like, I'm the small kid, and you want to feel like you can protect the people around you. If anything bad happens, you can protect yourself. And I think I always desired that feeling of being strong and being able to protect myself. And I think maybe that's what I felt attracted. It was like the closest thing to a superpower. It's the way I could see it. Like being able to protect the people you love, but then also protect yourself. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, because it's funny you say that, because I'm going to jump a little bit, because you're obviously a coach now, you've been coached for a while, and do you feel like you can empower people to feel that way because you're giving them those basics to do so, and just empowering them so they can become their own hero in their story? I will come back to the coaching though, but just from that question, do you think that?
Yeah. I just love passing on anything good that I have. So obviously, like the way the martial arts has served me and just my passion for it, I want other people to get to experience that. So, definitely. I've seen my own students, some kids, some adults, and then just seeing the confidence that's brought them, and even they've, vocalized that, like they feel way more confident, and like maybe not those exact words, but a sense of empowerment for sure.
Yeah, no, it's wicked, man. I just love what you're doing. I do have one question I wanted to ask, because obviously a teammate of mine in the Calsock days, and there was a period where it would have been an interesting period because we had a group of Thai trainers at the time, and they were wild characters, all right? And then all of a sudden, you were living at their house.
Okay, yeah.
How long were you living there for, and like how did that come about?
So I think I was there for about 2 months, maybe, if that 2 months. How it came about?
A lot less than I thought. I thought you were there for a while, but yeah.
Man, I could have been. Honestly,
probably felt longer.
It might have been longer.
Because that's interesting to be like a young person into martial arts. Now you're living with a group of Thai trainers. You usually wouldn't get that unless you're in Thailand. So I just thought that's interesting. You got to experience that at a very young stage in your martial arts career.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool experience. Sometimes at that time I had no tolerance for spicy food, and they're sometimes like, they make some food, like, come sit down, and like they're sitting there with like a towel, and they're like sweating, and they're used to it. So like I'd have one bite, I can't eat this. I'm a little bit better now, but yeah, man, like how the experience came about. I think I just needed a place to stay at the time. I think it would have been like 18, 19. Yeah, I just wanted to start, living on my own and away out of home. And I think I asked Darren, or Darren offered. Or I can't remember. I was speaking to Darren about something, but Darren just offered it, and I was like, yeah, sure. And he basically was going to give me the full Thai experience. I didn't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
I just had to train and do my thing.
Oh, obviously, I just thought that would have been an interesting experience for you, just to get really thrown into living that fighter lifestyle with a bunch of experienced trainers that had hundreds of fights and different culture, different food. It's different to say any sort of 18, 19-year-old experience in the martial arts world. So good to know. Now, your first fight, so you've obviously just had your last fight, and one thing I do want to know is your first fight compared to your last fight. Like, was there anything that's like any same mindsets coming, or anything different? Anything that you just thought, like, or say you were super nervous for your first fight, or your last fight were you super nervous? Any similarities or any really big differences in those fights?
Interesting question. Funny enough, the big similarity between both of them was excitement. It was something new, a new experience. I think because I was fighting so regularly, that kind of new experience, how do I put it? The novelty started wearing out, and like now you're in fight camp, and maybe I should have fought less, and maybe I burnt myself out a little bit, but. It's just the one thing I really remembered about my first fight was that I was really excited for it. Not that I wasn't excited for later fights, but just none of them had that same kind of excitement. But then this one, there was that excitement. And I think it's because I had such a long break. And obviously I knew I was going to have all these people coming to watch me and support me. Yeah. So there was a lot of excitement going into this fight. That would be the biggest similarity between them.
So yeah, with your first fight and now your last fight, right. So how many fights all up have you had together? What's the total?
It was 16 Muay Thai fights. So that's 16 Muay Thai fights. I ended up having one MMA fight. I don't really like to talk about that. Wasn't really a
combat sport, martial arts. I love it.
Yeah, a few jiu-jitsu matches, but really just in Muay Thai, just 16.
Yeah. So that's a long time between fights. So I want to talk about the contrast. So your first fight compared to your last fight. Now, your first fight, you would have had your coach telling you what to do, and I remember interviewing you in your last fight. Like, I was surprised that you were the coach of your own self, so you were in full control of your training camp. So, what are the challenges being in control of your own training camp? Was there a lot of pressure that way? Was there doubts in your mind going in because you don't have that coach this time? Were you happy that you got to be able to be in control of your last fight camp?
I much prefer being in control of my own training. I might get a little bit of flack for this, but I'm not 100% sold on the traditional way of training, and I think that was the biggest difference between my training when I was training at Calsoc, which obviously has developed loads of champions. Who am I, but. Being in control of my training now, I got to implement certain things which I've been looking into, and I got to kind of do the things that I thought were the most valuable and kind of cut out the things that I think are kind of like essentially junk training. And I thought that was great. Like, my fitness felt pretty good. I mean, I was tight in there, I had a bit of the adrenaline dump, but this is the best I felt going into. Best I felt going into any fight, mentally, physically, compared to my first fight. I mean, I did feel good for that fight because obviously when you're just training hard, you're confident. I wasn't burnt out at that stage. And obviously just training with like all you guys just builds your confidence as well. Yeah. So the biggest difference between like training then and training now is I had that whole team. At the moment where I'm training, I got a lot of good guys that are coming up, but no one that was at that level. So cardio wise and conditioning, I could do all my stuff. Sparring wise, I kind of had to outsource a little bit.
And you did, right?
Yeah.
You outsourced for your last fight. You went to different gyms and trained with different people.
Yeah. Mainly trained on the weekends. I would go spar at the pit. And then during the week, I was sparring with a guy called Manny Basiliote. He's one of the main fighters out of WA Thai Boxing Center. Awesome guys. So we were sparring throughout the week. And yeah, then on the weekend I would pretty much go spar with the guys at the pit.
That's smart. So you're not your typical coach that just bashes all your students and goes into the fight and be like, yeah, I'm going to do
Like, what do you
it.
get out of that, you know?
You put yourself out of those comfort zones kind of thing.
Yeah, I got myself beat up quite a few times, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process, that whole fight camp process again.
Yeah. So with your most recent fight, I was really interested in this fight because Jake's a teammate of mine. I know how strong he is. I know how tough he is. I've seen his rise. He's come out of nowhere really quick. And you hadn't fought in a long time. So
Yeah.
I was really, and I know how good you were. So it was a really interesting fight for me. So how do you describe the fight? Like, was there anything that just surprised you or like, yeah?
Okay, well, one thing I didn't know going into the fight that Jake was going to have a lot of forward pressure because I've seen him fight. And obviously I sparred with him back in the day, but I mean, he only had 2 or 3 fights back then. And I was surprised.
You guys sparred with each other?
Yeah. I come down to scrappies a few times, sparred with him.
Yeah.
But I'd know I wasn't even going to try and be like, well, he's going to fight like this or he's going to be at this level because I'd seen him just rapidly have all these fights and win against good guys. So I was like, this is not going to be the same Jake. But yeah, just he did what I expected in the sense of that forward pressure. So there was no real surprise there. The surprise that I did have was he managed the distance quite well. Big weapon of mine that I like using is the teep. And he took away quite a lot of my teep, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know. But I just found the distance felt a bit weird. I just couldn't quite land my teep as much as I liked, which felt like it was taking an arm away in the fight. But yeah.
So is that like, was that one thing that you wish, was there anything that you wish that you'd done better other than that as well? So was that the main thing that you wish you'd done better in the fight?
I don't know if I would have been able to do better because that was just like a feel thing. Like in the fight, that's just how I managed the distance or how he managed the distance. One thing I wish I did do better was get a little bit more on the front foot. So I went into this fight completely just on the mission that I was going to counterfight. I really wanted to show the difference of who I used to be as a fighter and who I am as a fighter now. So I'm way more. I feel like I'm way more technical, way more. How to put it? More tactical. So I really wanted to put that on display. And I didn't want to just walk forward and try and, put the pressure on and go for the knockout.
I've felt that inspiring before.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's all I used to know how to do was just walk forward pressure, But now I think being as a coach, and I think it's through, letting other people work on you, you learn to become more of a counter fighter. Your timing gets better, your touch gets better, your control gets better, and I really wanted to put that on display. So in that fight, that's what I wanted to do. I had a few things that I wanted to do, which I didn't end up doing in the fight. Like I just couldn't set it up, and I got so tunnel vision on what I was already doing. But there were moments where I felt like if I just switched into, all right, now I'm going to come forward and I'm going to try to do damage, the fight could probably be even more exciting. We don't know. You don't know how it would have gone, but yeah, I just got so stuck in what I was doing. That's my only kind of regret is I wish I walked a bit more forward.
Right.
I got the job done.
Dude,
so.
It was a super exciting fight. So I think you're a bit hard on yourself there with some things. But saying that, what are some things that you think you've done really well in that fight? What were you proud of when you finished that fight? You're like, hey, yes, stuck to the game plan here, or just certain things that you've done a lot better?
Well, yeah, I think the thing that I was happy with was the fact that I stuck to the game plan, even though it's at the same time I also regret that I didn't deviate from it at times where it would have been beneficial to do that. But the fact that I stuck to the game plan, there was a few things I wanted to do in the fight. I managed to do those. Obviously, even though I didn't land as many teeps as I wanted to, I still managed to throw those teeps. I had a few good teeps that really knocked them off balance. Even though it was towards the end of the fight, started getting comfortable throwing those leg kicks, putting my hands on display, like that I got some good powerful shots there. So yeah, like that's probably the thing I was probably happiest with the
What
most.
about, I've seen the video, the John Jones.
Yeah.
You called it because it was cool. It was a cool buzz interviewing after how like buzzed they were, and I was obviously ringside, and the chance that they were saying, and you're usually the coach, but now it's your students telling you what to do, but that you were still listening to them, and which is just a compliment to you. You still took their advice and things, but the John Jones thing, was that a plan?
100% plan. So this actually, I think you asked earlier about training for this fight and being in a position where I'm like the coach and all that. But one of my old students, his name's Caleb, really good friend of mine, and he actually flew over from Brisbane to come be in my corner because I've just got a lot of respect for his mind and for the way he can analyze things. And we spoke a few weeks before the fight and be like, okay, well, let's come up with a game plan. What are we going to do? And there was a few moves which I said, look, this my general game plan is to counter fight, fight off the back foot, even if it means I lose the fight. But obviously technical dominance was what I really wanted to do. But there was also a few little moves just for fun I wanted to land there, like the John Jones or the reverse spinning elbow. So that's where instead of doing it off my lead side, I do it off my rear side. And that was one of the things we wanted to do and set it up, and he called it and I went for it.
How cool is it when you have these plans and you execute it in a fight, hey? It's just such a great feeling.
Such a good feeling. I wish I landed a bit more flush, but it was still cool to be able to go for it and, like I said, hear it, and it was just so clear, and it felt right in the moment, so I just went for it.
So overall, you think your training camp went pretty good? How was the training camp coming into this fight?
Yeah, really good. I think I might have peaked.
How long off did you have so that your training camp? How many years or months off did you have into your next training camp?
Well, I mean, this was my only training camp that I've had, so it was a 10-year break between the last
10 years,
almost 10 years to the
decade.
Month. So 10 years, and well, funny enough, so a few years back, I was actually going to come back for a fight, and I was training. I think I was doing a 16-week camp because I was 16 weeks into the fight, and I was about 8 weeks in, and then COVID happened, so that threw off that, and then after COVID had settled and fights were happening, I started getting ready for another fight, and I just felt I couldn't manage the running a club and training at the same time. I just couldn't manage both. But now that I was just coaching and a few other things, basically everything aligned that I could do a fight. And so now this one, it was about a 12-week camp. So I think I was just at the Muay Thai Grand Prix before this one, and I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, because I've been umming and ahhing for a long time.
Yeah.
And looking at people, I'm like, I can fight. What's you go ahead?
No, I was going to say, so was that your motivation to come back then? What was your motivation? 10 years off, to come back? Because you've been a coach, and then now you're I want to come back. Was it the Muay Thai Grand Prix? Just getting the itchy knuckles?
Oh man, look, I've been wanting to come back since I left. I never. It was never my intention to actually have to be retired. So it was never I'm retiring now. I thought I was just going to have maybe 6 months to a year off, because the reason I stopped at the time is I was feeling a bit burnt out. There was no more passion or drive in me. I was just kind of doing these fights. I was going through the motion, which is, you shouldn't be doing that, right? You gotta be in it 100%. And I was like, no, I'm gonna have a bit of a break. And then the 1 year turns to 2 years. Life happens. You're working, and one thing leads to the next. It's been 7-8 years running my own club. So while during all that, I was always I'm going to come back soon. Every time I'd either have a fighter on a show, I'd be watching, and then getting the itchy knuckles, looking at the guys who are competing at that kind of state title level, and seeing them, and not taking anything away from them, thinking they're good, and I'm like, I can hang with them. I know I can hang with them. So wanting to, I guess in a sense, prove myself. And that's been going on for years. Actually, I think a few of my friends were didn't believe me when I said I'm coming back, because I think I said it once or twice before, and they're like, all right, we'll believe you. We believe it when we see it. And it happened.
Well, that's funny, because I'm thinking you've retired after this fight now. How sure are you of that? Because surely, right? Surely, like, I was thinking, nah, no way. You're young, you're fit, you had a good performance. Surely you come back again.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Man, this is. So yeah, like, I am quite definite that that was my last fight.
Shit.
I almost came back about a week ago. I almost booked another fight.
Really?
Yeah. So
literally a week ago. Yeah.
No, was it? It might have been this week actually. Must be.
So you did get offers like straight after, pretty much.
Well, he was just asking like if I wanted to fight again, and then I was talking about like, well, look, this is probably what would make me come back, and I had a pretty good offer, and everything was like, yep, cool. Everything was going ahead, and then I, came to realize the reasons why I wanted to stop in the first place. I was just kind of reminded of that, and that kind of, when you kind of you get all excited, you're like, yes, I'm going to do this again, which was something I was a little bit worried about, that I was going to get the desire to fight again, and not that that's necessarily bad, but where I am kind of in like my life and where I want to go and my pursuits, it would be to be focused on fighting, competing would be a distraction.
Right. Okay. So you got higher priorities, kind of thing.
I've got things that are a bit more important to me. I love it, but then also there's an aspect of, how do I put it? The desire for me to try and seek that glory, kind of like you're talking about earlier, being the hero, being the guy, everyone looking at me, like that's an area of where I don't think that's for me.
Right,
anymore.
You don't see it that way anymore.
Yeah. And the
perspectives kind of changed.
Perspectives changed.
Getting old now, man.
Yeah. As I like to say, I must decrease so he must increase, and that's kind of where I'm at. And the whole thing was to come back. I had to remember the reason why I came back was not so that I could keep fighting, but it was for myself and to prove it to myself. But also, I wanted to do it for my students. For them to be like, see their own coach. I mean, how many people get to see their own coach go in there and fight against? I don't want to just fight against anyone. I wanted to fight against someone that was good in the division. And Jake, he was like on a 7-fight win streak. Yeah. I was like,
he's a beast.
He's ready for a title, and I just wanted to jump in there with the guys who are already at the best, and like, not the best in division, because then I'm also going to be smart, but the guys that are like at that same kind of level that I left at, and just show people what I can do, and I did that. The hard thing was, I was happy with my performance, but there was also so many things I wish I could have shown, and I think that will never be satisfied. So if I was fighting again to show those things, there'd be something else and it would never end. So I could stop it now when it was good.
Yeah, I think that happens with a lot of fighters. I can think of fighters like today. It's hard for them to quit, like just because they're still chasing something.
That's it.
Hope I'm not one of those fighters.
No.
But speaking of that, then, so what are your favorite 3 things? What are your top 3 moments in your fights that out of your whole career? Memorable fights, something that you did, the journeys that you've been on.
So the top three, just off the top of my head right now. So the first one, I'm a bit hesitant saying, because
you got to say it.
The only reason why this is so memorable is because this guy would whip my butt any day of the week now. Even back then, he was so technical, but he's just technical beast now. It's Tyler Hardcastle. Right, so I had a fight with him. I think it was our second year of competing, and I think I had 10 fights. He had 9 fights, or something like that, or 9 and 8. And I was genuinely like, this guy's I was going to a fight thinking I'm not going to win this fight. Like, he's just so much more technical than I am. And I just went out there and I just got the finish pretty quick. And that was just because I rushed him. And so that's one of the most memorable moments. And the reason why it's because it's like when you get a win over someone that's that good, you cherish it. So it's like one of those cherished moments that I know, like I was sparring with him for this fight camp, and he was just like whipping me. So,
man,
he's so good,
super impressive. Very. I liked how he's had that big break and he's come back and he's just put on an absolute show. It's just like you said, very, very technical.
From day one, from his first fight, just been so technical.
Yeah. So that's one.
Oh, yeah. Second one would probably be my first title shot I fought against Alex Omaroso. It was another just technical. Such a technical. Again, another real technical fighter. And I think I'm pretty confident I was winning that fight. And it was our third fight, so he'd won the first fight. I just scraped the win in the second fight. And this was kind of like the decider. And I was winning the fight, and in the third round, he split me open with a spinning elbow. And the thing that made it so memorable was, like, I always wanted to get cut. It's like a rite of passage, but I was like, why now? Now I'm getting stopped in, like, my first title shot, but it was a gnarly cut. It's cool to have all the photos of it, so I think that was very memorable. Like, I was so excited about getting, like, such a crazy cut that it kind of took away from the fact that I lost the fight. So yeah, that was probably my second most memorable, and then my was not in any particular order, but then obviously my first, my title shot that I won, that was pretty cool. Like winning the title, and doing it how I did. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool, man. You'll hold those memories forever. And of course, now you're a coach, so you've stepped into the coaching role. Yeah, but what made you the decision to do that? Like, because you were a fighter already. Like, is it something that you always wanted to do after fighting, or did you something that you just naturally fell into?
Actually, I wonder if you'll remember this, but to answer your question, I always thought that I was going to be a fighter. I mean, a coach. I just didn't think it was going to be at that point. I thought I was going to have a lot more fights and then kind of retire and then coach from there. Yeah. But at the time, you were coaching at Scrappies. I don't know if you remember this. You were coaching. You actually asked me to take over.
Oh,
yeah. You remember? It was like this was 10 years ago.
From the past.
Yeah. So you asked me, and I was like, yeah. No, I hadn't coached or anything like that. But yeah, came down. You showed me how you ran a class, and I took that and kind of took that model, and I think it was just that was more.
I hope you definitely surpassed that model.
Oh, I've got my own model, by now. Changed it pretty quickly. I mean, it was good. It's like, I'm going to do this or do that. So yeah, that was my first coaching experience was at Scrappies, and then at the same time I was starting to become a personal trainer. I was doing classes. I was doing all that. So, I mean, one thing led to another. Teaching classes at Scrappies, and then doing the privates, and then running a few classes back where I was also being a personal trainer, and then opening up my own club. So yeah, it just naturally kind of unfolded. But yeah, I guess my intention was to wait a lot later, but it just kind of happened, and yeah, it's been great.
What are your goals for coaching now then? Or is that something that always changes as you keep coaching?
My biggest goal as a coach is just to be the best coach that I can be, is to constantly find the most, efficient and effective ways for my students to acquire skills in a very enjoyable way. So I'm always anyone that's trained with me for a few years, I'm always trying new things, always modifying the way I do it. Like, okay, that's working. Okay, that's not quite working. I'm not afraid to experiment. I'm not afraid to go against the grain and do something that might be a little bit untraditional if it yields good fruit, And I think there's been a lot of things which I'm doing. Like, I've really seen the progress of my students really quickly. So yeah, I mean, that's always been my big goal. I've never wanted someone to train with me. Let's say they've been training with me for a year, and they don't actually have anything to show for it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's always been my big goal. Another goal is obviously everyone wants to, as a coach, wants to have that fighter, that champion. I'd like to develop a champion. I've had a few guys that have had that potential, and either they've moved on or whatever, and that's all good. But yeah, that's kind of like now at Raw MMA. There's a few guys who I think have the potential. It's just got to build them up, and we'll see from there.
Yeah, it's good to see you can fully invest in as a coach rather than being there, hold the pads, whatever, take the money, and then just don't even think about it when you get home. As a coach, is it something that when you finish coaching the class? To say that again. So, as a coach, when you finish coaching the class, is it something that you take with you when you get home, thinking of things all the time? Is it because as a fighter, right? I know you're always thinking of your fights, your next fights, how you can improve. Is it the same with coaching?
I'm constantly thinking about what I'm doing. Is there a better way to do it? Taking other ideas. I'm always thinking about how can I do what I'm doing in a better way. So if I do something in a class and I apply it and I'm reflecting on like, okay, did that get the results that I wanted? If yes, okay, why? And then if no, okay, why wasn't it working? So yeah, I'm always thinking about it. So yeah. It's a little bit. It's easy when I've got a 45-minute drive home. I'm just like driving there, just thinking about it. Yeah.
Well, man, I've got a couple of questions for you because I'm going to follow suit because you've obviously sprung it on people as well. Most people who've watched the podcast would know. I'm going to start with, what do you think the meaning of life is?
So now it's my turn.
I remember when you put it on, man. Oh shit! Yeah.
I was waiting for this. Yeah.
And it's already changed.
Yeah. Man. This is where I might lose some people. But
take as long as you want.
Yeah. No. It's okay. I've got to think about the way to formulate this precisely. I think the meaning of life is to know God in the person of Jesus Christ and to enter into a true love relationship with Him, to make Him known and to manifest that love, that divine love, which, my love always fails, but to manifest His love for others. And in that context, live life to the fullest.
Wow,
that's kind of how I would put it.
Yeah, that's cool because the context of love as well is a big one because obviously love and fear in life, big contrast. And when we think of Muay Thai and fighting, there's that comes into it there as well. There's everything that we do in life, but that's a good one. And yeah, definitely better than but it's good. No, I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, the way you articulate it and everything is great. But another thing I wanted to ask as well, because I just came across this other video the other day and it kind of resonated with me a little bit. And it was actually just in a person in the 80s, so they're kind of towards the end of their life and when they got asked this question. And now in your 30s, okay, it'd just be cool to because you started Muay Thai when you were 16 years old. You always had the passion for martial arts earlier. If you could go back to yourself when you first started Muay Thai, what would you do differently?
Man, that is hard. It's hard because when you start tinkering with like, if I would do this differently, like, what would be the impact of that?
Yeah.
Would I be like?
Exactly.
So I guess if I was to go back.
Is there one thing or is there one little thing? Because it is a very broad question. If someone was to watch this and like as a young person and something that you did, like, what would you do differently? Is there one big thing or is there one or is there multiple little small things that you would have done differently?
Learn to teep often. Teep often. Other than get good at the teep first. Oh man, there's so many things. Man. What would you? Is there something that you, or maybe you just wouldn't change anything at all? If you go back in time, because you are where you are now, so you're like obviously like, hopefully you are happy where you are at now. Is there something that you maybe wouldn't have changed? Do you think life was supposed to happen the way it is, or do you think there could have been some things that you could have changed? Oh, look, honestly, I do think I could have definitely focused more on defense, a lot more like counter fighting, like, and
because I'm the same.
Right.
Defense.
Defense.
Yeah, defense.
One thing which actually I tell my students now is to regulate my work, my output. So I would go out trying to like knock the guy out early on, where now I'm more like slowly, start off a bit more slower, feel them out, and then build that pace up. So I'll probably tell myself that, like, take a bit of time, feel them out, and then always try to finish the round strong. Finish, because I would start off strong and then I'd fade away towards the end of the round. Right. And I think I could have lost a few rounds like that. Because, I mean, I don't know how good people's memories are, but I think people also remember the last little bit of the round. If you think about it, like how short our memories can sometimes be, you could start the round well, right? So if you take, like, let's say one person exactly like a minute and a half is dominating the first half, and then a minute and a half the other person's dominating. So the same amount of time dominating, I think the person who was dominating the last half, they'll be more fresh in the judges' minds because they just remember like, towards the end he came strong, he finished the round strong. So I think there's that aspect of it as well, but also it just makes the fight a little bit more, I think, enjoyable when you're not trying to go out and just go nuts for the first, unless you got an amazing gas tank. I don't know why I used to fight like that. I never had the best gas tank. Honestly, I'm an idiot. But yeah, I would say
maybe that's something you could have changed. Keep the same fight, but just improve on the gas tank with the new technology that's kind of, or the new ways of training that are out there. Like instead of doing the 100-kilometer runs, like now it's more sprinting that people do, and like maybe not use our legs so much up hills and that. Maybe we use more dynamic bikes and a lot more sprint work, that kind of maximal heart rate training and all that kind of stuff. So being a coach now, to when you started training Muay Thai, like there's the pretty traditional Muay Thai training, your long runs, your pad work and your repetition kicks and stuff like that. As a coach now, what do you do differently into your students? Is there something that you would change, like using more exercise equipment? Are you still doing these massive runs? Are you doing 3-hour sessions or shorter sessions?
Man, I do a lot of things differently. I did things differently for my fight for myself, but I guess your question was more targeted towards my students. So one thing I do is I don't make people run unless they've got a fight. I think, imagine like someone just wants to do this as a casual, and they're told, go for a 3K run or whatever you have to run. Like I don't make anyone do that. And even with the guys that are like wanting to do inter clubs or fights, I don't make them run as much. I don't think that's the most important thing you can do. Obviously, there is value in having that cardio base. I'm trying to think of the word now.
Foundation.
Yeah.
As like, when you're starting, I guess. Because I guess with the traditional, that mentality you get from doing that grindy long session, like, is good for the mental strength, I guess.
But I think you can still develop mental strength in the short, hard stuff as well. And I feel like that is more reflective of the performance environment, because it's like you're doing hard, intense, and then back in there, and then, you know what I mean?
And that's a fight, right? So how long's a fight?
That's been my biggest thing. Is like, why is the way that we're training so, like, talk about energy systems wise, so different from fighting? You know what I mean? Like the time wise. And I'm like, sometimes I feel like we're training to get fitter at training. Like, we're training so that we can train better for a 3-hour session, not so we can go harder for those 5 3-minute rounds, if that makes sense.
Complete sense to me. I'm on a similar level, because you don't get if you're a long distance runner, you're not sprinting to train for that, or if you're a sprint trainer, like Usain Bolt doesn't run 1 kilometer to train for his sprints, kind of thing. So
probably there's no value in it, but it's how much priority. Yeah,
I do like the whole doing lots of say if you have a 3-round fight, then a lot of that training is going to be somewhere in that training is going to be a hard 3 rounds.
100%. So that's so with my students, it's so I don't make just like the general people are coming because they want to enjoy themselves. They want to get a good workout. And in a normal Muay Thai class, you can get quite a bit of a workout in 1 hour. They want to learn real applicable skills, and that's what I focus on. And then for those who are wanting to compete, they'll do the class, but then I'll have a little bit extra stuff for them after. Some more higher intensity stuff. I've got some other conditioning stuff they do outside of class. That's another thing as well. If you've got the freedom to train at different times and work different energy systems at different times, that's also good. Because I feel like if I'm doing like one session, I can put more into one session, have a break, do another hard session, because I feel like, or at least for me, speaking for me, like if I'm like, I've got like a 2-hour session, a 3-hour session, we're very good at being conservative with our energy. So if I know I've got to go run, then I've got to do 5 rounds of pads, 5 rounds in the bag, then I've got to do half an hour sparring, half an hour clinching, 300 knees in the bag. So my philosophy is, okay, what gives me the best bang for my buck? What really carries over to the fight, and how can I exploit that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do, and like what's going to give me the best adaptations cardio wise,
for the fight. Exactly.
For the fight.
I agree because a lot of my training is very similar, I guess, because it's like we're not like the conservative of the long sessions. Like then you go into the fight only training 70, like hitting 70%, because that's how you train your body. And if you have an opponent that's done this conditioned training for the 3 minutes, then they're putting the pace on you, then you don't recover that long in the fight. So I can definitely agree with that sort of things. There's something else as well. The training.
Let me ask you a question while you're thinking. So just while we're spitballing here, what do you think has? Do you guys still do like 10 fast kicks after each round of pads, or quite a bit of that?
Not every day, but definitely when the Thai pads, you can add in the 10 fast kicks.
Yeah.
Not so much at the start of the rounds anymore.
Yeah, just more at the end.
At the end, like.
Because when I used to do with Darren, it was like 10 fast, like maybe more power ones and then fast ones at the end. And I would think
it was sick for our conditioning and like. But exactly. There's perspectives on everything, hey. But, where were you going with it?
Well, where was I going? So I was, okay. So there's a few different ways I could go. I guess what I was going to ask you, so not even conditioning, or we'll remove conditioning because we could argue about maybe the 10 fast kicks being good for conditioning. But when I'm thinking about the movements that are used in a fight, like how often do you throw 10 kicks in a row in a fight like that? Or is it more beneficial, instead of doing 10, bam, 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 you do 2, maybe 3 max, explosive, powerful, short break, boom, 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 bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Like how do I get what I'm doing to reflect what I'm going to actually do in a fight? And how can I put more into it? Like that's kind of like the idea. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm always trying to look at that, when you take very traditional exercise, you do the 200-300 knees on the bag at the end. Like, how often do you throw knees like that? Usually we're a bit more planted in the ground. We're driving up into a knee. Maybe you'd hang off, you throw a few knees. But so are we doing the knees for conditioning, or are we doing it for technique? Yeah. Or sometimes I find when you try to blend the two, you don't really get to work on each one as well as you can. So like I feel like we should almost separate the two, the technique and the conditioning. Because if you tired, then now you're doing a technique and it's more fatigued.
And it's almost like you're unconsciously doing the move because you kind of like just got to get it done. And then you're not actually your mind body connection. You're not actually doing it for you don't know why you're doing it. Kind of it's just I've got to get it done kind of thing.
I think we should ask questions like, okay, is it why am I doing this? And that should be okay. And look, it might end up being someone can give you really good reasons, like this is why.
Yeah.
And then that's
what we want to know. Like we would love those discussions kind of thing. Body clocks. Because big thing that my sort of game these days, well, not so much lately, but big thing that was brought into me was training the same time I would fight. So say we do we have our big Saturday morning session, the end of the week session, or maybe be a Friday night session is our hardest session of the week, but it would always be on that night or be a Saturday morning session. But then say the fight's at Saturday night, when usually for 8 weeks we've been training hard in the morning or the Friday night, and we're sleeping, we're enjoying ourselves, and our cortisol levels down on that Saturday night. Like, is that a big thing for you with the body clock, like training at the same time, or
funny enough,
mentally you should be able to switch on whenever?
Well, okay, so two questions there. That makes a lot of sense to me, and that was something I was actually thinking about going into this fight. I didn't utilize that. I didn't train around it, but I was thinking like that would actually make more sense, and especially if you structure your week around that. But it might be hard to do that because sometimes people are fighting at 10, 11 p.m. Like if you're the main event on a fight show, you're going to train 10, 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. How do you actually do that practically? So yeah, I do think that would make sense if you train. Like, let's say you're fighting at this time, and you can get your body, and you get used to training at a certain time. Because most of my training sessions were actually, like, I was going the hardest in the mornings.
Yeah.
And I still go a little bit hard at night, but not the same. I don't know what difference it made in the fight. Maybe it would have. So it'd be very interesting if they did an experiment. I'm sure there probably has. There's probably been articles out there where they've taken 2 people and one person has done it. Has, like, let's say they've got a performance they need to do, they train at the exact same time using the body clocks, and the other person doesn't. Like, what difference it would actually make? But it does make sense to me that it would make a difference.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to practically utilize it.
Nah, it's because, like, I've had different coaches, saying, like, this is very important that you train, you get your train at the same time you fight, so your cortisol rises at the right time. But then I've had coaches that say, you're a fighter, you should be able to switch on whenever because you want to win that fight more than anything. So it doesn't matter what time you fight. You shouldn't play it that way. You should be able to go whenever you want to go. So that makes sense.
One's a mentality, one is a scientific approach.
Yeah, exactly. And what's more important in a fight? It should be, I guess, finding the balance.
Yeah. Well, when you did your most recent fight, what time did you fight?
Don't get me started, man. These morning shows, I'm failing miserably.
Yeah?
They're Saturday morning, and you got to get up super early. Like, one time I had to get up at 3:50, and I've never gotten up at that. The whole camp, I never got up at that time. I had to make my breakfast, so I'm just using excuses now. But I've lost those
that's
fights.
why, yeah.
But, that's why I was thinking with the body clock thing, like, maybe, exactly. That could be an adaptation, thinking you as a coach, like, I guess, there's not a one-size-fits-all, and whatever student you have, maybe try different things like that.
I couldn't make all the classes at that time, like I'd have to really try and figure out how I could actually apply that for someone in their fight. But that's a hard, because like you said, on a fight, like I said, on a fight show, you could have someone that's fighting at the start of the show, because sometimes you don't even know when you're fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you go to domination, if it's like an amateur fight. So you could be fighting, like if it's development day, you could be fighting around a bit closer to 3 p.m. or you could be fighting close to 7, 8 p.m. towards the end of the show. You don't know.
And like everyone's, I know I'm not a morning person in general. Like my best sessions in training at night time. So you're opposite, right? You're more of a morning person. Like, you like training hard in the morning, or you wake up early, do you?
Not necessarily. I just found it was just at that time with like my work schedule. I just had freedom in that time, like that kind of mid-morning time. Yeah. And I did prefer it. Like, I'd get up, I'd eat at 7, 8 a.m. and then I would either go do my training. Oh no, actually, sorry, I would get up at like maybe 6 a.m., eat, and then I would do my training session with Manny. And I think we'd spar in about 8:30, sometimes just before 9. We'd do a session, then I'd go do my conditioning after, and then it was like the main portion of it was done for the day, and like it's the early part of the day, you feel good for the rest of the day. It's not on your mind, I've got to go train later, and then I would just do a little bit more conditioning at night, maybe a bit of skill work. I just prefer it. Felt good. Because at the end of the day, it's weird. Like, at the end of the day, sometimes because you've been working, you're a little bit more warmed up. But I find mentally you can be a little bit fatigued. But then once you're going, you're good. But then in the morning, it's like the opposite.
Right. I guess, everyone has each their own, and there's always things to try as well. And when you started mentioning diet, I had all these other trigger things I want to ask you about diet, but it's like, oh shit, we're going way over time.
We've gone over time a bit.
Michael, man, it's been an honour to have you on your own podcast that you've been bringing out to Western Australia in general for the Perth fighters. So it's been an honour to actually interview you. I wanted to, because after the fight, I was like, Michael, we need to get you on your own show. So thank you so much for sharing your story, man, and hopefully there will be a part 2. You have said that you aren't going to come back and fight again. You've explained yourself, because I was thinking, surely you would. But
it's very tempting, but I've decided not to.
Maybe we can get him back. Call him the John Farnham, hey? But it's an honour to chat to you, man. And it's been a pleasure. And I'll give you a handshake now. And part 2 still should be coming, because I want to talk a lot about coaching and just
I'm happy to do another one in the future.
The next generation of Perth fighters. So, fighters of Perth, thank you.